Hello, I just realized that the response I tried to post last night didn't pop up, so I'm making another one this morning for the moderator response for week 7, and I apologize that it will be late, along with my individual post last week. Having my webcam poop out on me has really caused me to be behind this week, and I'm really sorry about that. So last night I thought I had one that I had recorded, but it's just come up as an empty video, so um, I have my notes here from last night, but in Christy's video, she talks about how we all kind of had a similar definition that the most usable form of ecological validity in the sense of this course and the way that we're learning about research and research methods and how those connect with quantitative research and advocacy research. The holistic approach that ecological validity brings to the table is really beneficial in allowing us to recognize our own bias and the bias of other people. It allows us to identify the scope of the problem, and I really liked that in Kristen's video she used the example of domestic violence and the continuation and the cycle within that aspect of the problem. And with domestic violence, you do see, well, often, I haven't researched this thoroughly by any means, but you do tend to see in media and in papers that I have read that there is a cycle of perpetuation that goes on from parent to child to child to parent to parent to child. And the reason being, I think, can be pointed out in this ecological validity example because it is a form of research, in a sense that kind of explores why things occur. I was thinking in an environmental way, but I really like that example of domestic abuse. And the other thing I was thinking after that example came up was male patriarchy. You see this perpetual cycle where men are historically in control of the political aspects of our society, the economic aspects, even our religious perspectives are typically based on men, and you could even do that with race. White men typically are the ones in charge of most of our political society, and kind of perpetuates a cycle wherein we have to create public policies like affirmative action or public policies, protecting women and protecting their reproductive rights. I could go to the problem with the debate, this past VP debate last week, where they posed the question of reproductive rights about women to two Catholic men, and they posed that question in the context of their religious faith. So the issue here is being that they're asking this question to two men about their faith, and if you look at it from an ecological validity standpoint, like how does this affect their answer, you could go back and say, well, men have mainly been in charge of the religious aspects of the American culture, and they've also been in charge of the political aspects of the American culture. And those two men answering the question the way that they did, despite the fact that they do have different opinions, they were still very adamant about their religious faith. So looking at it from that perspective, I really like that Kristen posed it in the domestic violence attribute or in the domestic violence situation, because it is a cycle and it is perpetuated by several varying causes. And if you look at each individual response, you can look at this, and I think quantitative research, the way that Christy associated it to the article we read week 5 or 6, would be correct, because it isn't an attempt to give them a voice whenever we're talking about homelessness. I have a friend that was a photojournalist major, and he kind of did a homelessness project in Horse Cave City, Kentucky, where he lived in the motels with people who had lost their homes. So they weren't in fact homeless, but they were living in motels in the sense that they didn't have a home any longer in the traditional sense. And he wanted to know what had driven them to be in that state. And I think what he found most interesting was that it was typically mental illness or some kind of family issue or a monetary issue. It was never necessarily drugs or alcohol that put them in that state and kept them perpetually in a state of homelessness. So if you're looking at it in a cycle method, kind of like the ecological validity response, and analyzing it in that fashion, I do think it is a way for researchers to kind of engage with the research subjects in a much more descriptive and in-depth way. The word holistic is being tossed around a lot in the videos, and I couldn't agree more. It is, you know, that's the term I should have used instead of in-depth way, but it is a holistic approach to research, so that we're not looking at it from a one-sided choice, which is a traditionally scientific method kind of way of looking at things, which is drastically different from the quantitative research method. So I'm sorry again for this being turned in on a Monday. I thought I had made it last night, but I'm still getting used to this new webcam, which frankly I don't look as good on. Okay, sorry about that. Alright, bye.